right, here we go. We are back for another episode. Deb is not here, but that's okay. I'm not even going to make fun of her today. I did that last week. I don't feel like doing it today because I didn't come prepared with anything to make fun of her about. But I will say this, it's okay that she's not here tonight because we have an awesome guest. Again, we have a college pastor at Bayside Church in Granite Bay, Blake Vandemark. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just lucky to be able to carve out some time with four kids, and my wife's out of the house right now. So luckily enough, it's quiet, and I'm looking to maximize the time together.
It's funny you say that. The reason I do this podcast is for anybody that doesn't know, this is 8 o'clock in the evening right now, 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, because I have two kids. I have two young daughters, and it's basically we put them in bed and then I rush off in here and try to get to the podcast. So some people are like, why are you doing this at 8 o'clock? The parents, they know it's like, oh, you have kids.
I couldn't do it any sooner than this, and especially I've got four kids. Three of them are boys, which they're loud all the time. So the fact that it's quiet and there's no screaming and there's no bloodshed happening right now, we're doing good.
Well, let me ask you this, because I can't remember your family history and all that stuff. Do you have sisters, brothers? Do you have siblings at all?
I'm the youngest of five. So
Okay.
I have two brothers, two sisters, and I'm the youngest.
Okay. So when you became a parent of boys, you kind of knew what to expect. It's always funny to me when you have like Rachel, my wife, for example, she has two sisters. So she grew up in a family of girls, and both her sisters have boys. And I think there are some times where I think they're used to it now, but there's a little bit of a culture shock there because boys are just different. I have two younger brothers and a younger sister who grew up with brothers. So she's basically, she knows what the deal is. But if you don't have brothers or you're not used to boys in the family, it's a different thing when you bring that into your life.
Oh, definitely. Are you guys done with two, or you think you're going to have more?
TBD. At the moment, we're good. We got some
TBD.
we got some rowdy girls.
I respect it. I know some people have said the jump from two to three is pretty significant, where for us, that was never the case. When we went from two to three, it seemed normal and like life went on as usual. Going from three to four was the big jump for us. And now our world's flipped upside down. It's crazy. It's crazy having four kids. I can tell you that much.
I can't imagine. I know I was talking to a trainer here in Sacramento, and he used to play football for San Diego State. And he was saying, because he just had his third child not too long ago, and he's like, we're basically going from man to zone, and we got to buckle up because it's a completely different game now. But yeah, three to four is very different.
And I think it's all dependent on the temperament of the kids. Some kids, it's easier to go from two to three. Going from three to four for us, like all the kids were in different stages of life. So in different grades in school, some weren't even in school, some were still in diapers. So managing all those different tiers of life is what
Yeah.
made it more difficult as well. So two, if you're feeling good right now, enjoy the time. And if you're going to have three, just pray for an even tempered child to be your third child, because that was our gift. Our third child was even tempered, so peaceful, sleeping all the time. It was easy
Nice.
for us with our third child.
That's
So
the way to do
anyway,
it.
I know you didn't bring me on the podcast to hear about my family history, but
Hey, we
there
can
you
talk
go.
about whatever you want. We can talk about whatever you want. Hey, wasn't it Philip Rivers does he have 9 kids? 11?
I think so. I think he
So
might be Amish. I don't
he
know.
might be. Well, I've seen some of their family pictures. He might be Amish. But yeah, so you're still a far cry from 9 kids, but no, that's awesome, man.
Yes.
I appreciate
Yes.
you taking the time with your busy schedule, your busy family. And we're going to get into why your life is so busy in a minute here. But because the show is called Connectable, we always talk about how we're connected to our guests, especially when it's their first time on the show. And it's through church. You and I were both at Capital Christian Center. I think you were going through, or you were a pastor there. And then
Mhm.
I was volunteering, with the mentoring high school students there, me and my now wife and also my sister. So I got to know you a little bit through that. And I was trying to think back, I feel like you and I, we knew of each other. We kind of had some interactions, but I feel like when we first really started having more interactions, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say the Nike Fuel Band brought us together. Do you remember
Yes.
the Fuel Band
100%. Yes.
and the competition? And I'm competitive. I know you're competitive, and some of our
Mhm.
buddies are also competitive. And I feel like once we all got the Fuel Band, then it just created a different relationship there, which I appreciated.
There was cohesion. There was a sense that we were all competing with each other. Rivalries we're boosted up. Like you knew when someone was cheating because their score was like astronomically high at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You're like, bro,
Yeah.
what'd you do? Like,
What
what were
did you
you
do?
doing? You were cheating. You were cheating somehow. You were not actually working out. But no, I love the fuel band. That was one of the big tools that I used to keep me motivated for fitness in that chapter of my life. Loved it.
Yeah.
And then yeah, because we would work out together. I remember we would do occasional workouts. You would stop by. You would come and do the workouts with us and Jared Stedman and Travis Cole and all those guys, right? What
Yeah.
it was
Every
at the
once in a
football
while.
field every once in a
Yes,
while.
sir. And
That's
I'll tell you this, man, I did not feel like less of a man except for in that moment. And
Jared,
it's
Jared
brutal.
had a way of creating workouts that made you feel inferior to yeah, you definitely felt feeble after doing his workouts.
Man, and it's funny too. I think you'll appreciate this story. So during that time, when we were doing the field band thing, I remember you got in really good shape, and we were competing with our friend Joe Raby, Trav Cole, who's been on the show a bunch of times, and we were all competing. And at one point, someone got tickets to do the Mud Factor run in Sacramento, and
Yep.
I remember thinking, I talked to Trav. He's like, "Well, Blake's gonna do it, and Joe's gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. You want to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Inside, I was terrified because I knew what kind of shape you guys were in. I'm like, "Well, I got to work." So I spent a couple of weeks really trying to get my mile time down, and I was down to like a 7:30 mile. Like I was flying.
Wow.
I'm
Yeah.
slow, man. And so I'm like, I got to work. So I got out there, and I remember I was keeping pace with you guys. I'm like, okay, the hard work paid off until you get in the mud, and all that weight's on you. And then I realized, oh, these guys are way stronger than me, and I'm like dragging behind. And I remember watching my now wife, Rachel, just like dying laughing. She's like, he's going to die out there behind all these guys. And every year there's one of those Facebook reminders or memories that pops up where the four of us, I think, took a picture right after the
Yep.
race. And my brother, Jordan, who I know, makes fun of me to this day. He's like, hey man, why are you the only one without your shirt off? I said, you know exactly why I kept my shirt on. And I don't know why you had to bring that up every time.
That's what siblings are for, man. Just to put some salt in the wounds every once in a while.
It's one of his favorite pictures. But yeah, man, the field band and the fitness stuff, it was cool because that's one of the things I feel like where I got to know you a little bit more. And so,
Yeah.
That's basically how we're connected. So, that's enough of me talking, man. Like, who are you? Who is Blake Vandemark? Tell me a little bit about your background and who you are.
Well, awesome. Like you said, I'm the youngest of five. I grew up in Chillicothe, Ohio, a small little town there. And yeah, my single mother household. So we weren't the most financially, how can I say, stable household, but my mom worked tirelessly to support us. She was a faith-filled woman. Definitely, she is a faithful woman. Drug us to church every single weekend. That was definitely a bedrock to what forged me into the person that I am, the values that I have. And then through that, I felt a distinct purpose, like working in the church. And through that, I moved to California. I was doing my education, pursuing full-time ministry through that medium, and then through that same school. That's where I was going to Capital at. That's where I met you. That's where I met a lot of people. It's specifically where I met my wife. Met my wife there, and after I met her, 3 years later, we got married, and we've been together now. We've been together for 20, married for 18, and
Wow.
we've got 4 kids, and I'm currently employed at Bayside Church, living out my dream, loving people, and just trying to make an impact in the world around me and leave the place better than I found it. That's Blake in a nutshell.
I'm gonna say this right now, man. I've been podcasting for a little over 4 years. That was very impressive because usually when I ask that question, it's a little bit of a roll of the dice. Because if I ask that question, some people are like, yeah, I'll give it all to you. And then 30 minutes later, I'm still hearing like only halfway through their story. Very impressive.
Hey, I try to only include the significant portions to the storyline there. So I mean, obviously I can fill in some random, like, oh, this was a milestone or this was a milestone,
Sure.
but you don't need to hear all that stuff right now. You don't need to hear that. Maybe another time. Maybe if this podcast is successful by any means, maybe I can come back again and we can fill in some of those gaps.
Hey man, even if it's not successful, I don't care. I would have you back in a heartbeat. So I enjoy talking to you, man.
Hey, I
So
appreciate that.
yeah, man. Well, hey, like I was telling you off air, one of the things that I have a ton of respect for you, one of the things I respect about you a lot is the fact that I feel like you're able to tap into the culture and the culture shifts, and it makes sense you work with college age kids because I
Mhm.
feel you have a good sense of the pulse of the culture. And you and I have known each other for quite a while, so there's obviously been shifts in trends, shifts in culture, shifts in styles and everything, music, movies, like everything that we all enjoy and everything that is the focus of the students that you lead their attention.
Mhm.
You seem to always have a pretty good grasp on what's going on. And again, we're both sports fans, and uh, I always heard, like, one of the things that was so amazing about Tom Brady, him playing as long as he did, is at a certain point, you are literally 20 years older than these guys that are getting drafted and they're starting on your team. And somehow you still have to be able to connect with them in order to make this team function. And
Right.
that's one of the most difficult things about being a quarterback in a league for so long, is because at a certain while, it's like, I have kids. They're starting to have kids. Like, what am I? I don't have anything in common with you. Like, what are we going to talk about? But the fact that you've been able to do this for so long and continue to work with young people that are, they keep cycling through, right? It's like you keep seeing, 18 through 25-year olds, and you're growing older, but you have a new set of 18 through 25-year olds coming through. Like, how do you stay so in touch with the culture? How do you stay so in touch with the trends? Because for me, man, like, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Even with this podcast, I'm on Instagram, I'm like, I'm gonna post a clip, but like, you see other people
Yeah.
just like flying past me with these ideas and creativity. Like, how do you stay relevant and connected to the people that you're leading?
Um, I think the first thing that's essential for me and has always been essential for me is I got to define what my values are and ultimately know explicitly what is my why. Like, why do I do what I do, and what is significantly value to me, and that which is valuable to me, is it true, or is it just a preference? Because a lot of times people consume or confuse their values for a preference and not necessarily that which is true. That which is this is what is a universal truth or a universal principle. This is something that resonates with everyone and anyone. And sometimes there's a disconnect between people because your preferences conflict, when in reality, if we're all honest, we're all in a pursuit of truth. Like, we want to live out of a principle of truth. We don't want to live out of a false identity or a false sense of value or a false sense of relationship. Like, we want true substance, true value. So early on in my life, somehow I just knew I wanted to know why I was doing what I was doing, and was it true? And then out of that, what I was able to identify is the way I'm able to connect with culture is I don't conform to it. I work vigorously to be informed of it, but not be conformed by it. And I think that's where a lot of the disconnect comes also from people that lose influence with culture. They conform to it instead of being informed about it. They allow it to define their value systems because their value systems weren't previously defined. That which was truthful to them was not previously defined. And maybe they live in a sense of fear or a sense of worry. Are they going to accept me? Are they going to approve me? Are they going to like my social media post? Are they going to comment? Do I have status? Do I have influence? Yada yada yada. And when you allow yourself to be so heavily influenced by that, you yourself cannot influence. You yourself cannot connect. You yourself are just simply another kind of, I guess, cog in the machine, just kind of just making this cultural machine work, as opposed to how do I see culture, speak to it, but then also be able to communicate, hey, this is what is you're pursuing this, like you're pursuing substance, or you're pursuing some sort of value, or you're pursuing some sort of emotion in this avenue of life. I can relate to that. I'm informed to it, but let me define to you what real truth is. Let me define to you what real value should be. And when you're able to define that and you're able to stand on it and you're able to have integrity and character and evidence of what you believe, I've just found my ability to connect with culture is not so much that I'm influenced by it, but I'm informed about it. And I'm able to stand firm on my principles, stand firm on my values. And I don't do it in a condemning, critical, condescending way. My goal has always been, how can I empathize? How can I relate, but still not water down or dilute my values and that which is the fundamental truths of who I know I am and what I believe to be true. And that's where I think it stands the test of time. And we know this, Josh. What's something that stands the test of time? Truth. That which is true will always withstand the test of time. People will always try to distort it. People will always try to manipulate it, or even the current phrase that you've heard probably numerous times. And for all your viewers out there, I'm not trying to minimize this, but the phrase of my truth. The my truth is that's not an accurate term, because that's you don't base my truth is another way of saying my preference.
Sure.
This is my preference. And when you confront those, obviously, especially in a very temperamental, sensitive culture that we're in today, how do you do that without severing friendships or relationship or communication? Well, the only way you can do that is being informed on why is it that they use that terminology? Why is it they use that verbiage? And how is it that you can basically say, hey, this isn't semantics. I'm not here trying to argue semantics with you. I'm talking about true substance, true, what is truth, what is valuable. So I think that's what's helped me, Josh, over the tenure of what I've been doing, to be unapologetic for what I believe, because I know what I believe, and I will only base my life on that which is true. I don't base it on fiction or preference or opinion. It's that which is true. And if what I'm doing does not align with truth, I change it. Because why would I waste my time or anyone else's time pursuing a pipe dream or something that can never even bring fruition or substance to someone's life? And I think through that time, as I've evolved, as I've been able to mature, as I've been able to self-assess, I've grown, because there were times where I didn't do that right. There's times I did hurt feelings. There's times I did break relationship. There's times that people were offended, but my goal was never to offend. My goal was never to upset. My goal has always been, I want people living out of truth, because that's what's going to be the most fulfilling source of purpose in someone's life, is truth.
Yeah, no, that's really good, man. And I think that's something that, again, the age that you work with is 18 to 25-year-olds. So it's a very, it's a pretty wide range. And an 18-year-old's mindset is very different than a 25-year-old's mindset, but there's a lot of common ground in the middle of that. And I feel like anybody in that range that you work with, because they're in that stage of life where they're really trying to discover who they are, what they want to do, where they want to go, I imagine that they appreciate that mindset, because it's very easy to figure out who's, using a trend, like a trendy design or a trendy theme or something, just to kind of try to connect, but really it's inauthentic, right? And it's, like you said, it's not truthful. It's just like, well, this thing seems to be really popular right now. Let's use this, and hopefully a bunch of people come to what we're doing because it's trendy right now. And so I think the mindset you have, I imagine it really helps you connect with the students that you're working with. And I imagine they see the authenticity in that, if that makes sense.
I found that that's been probably the most pivotal and influential thing. Like, you always hear people use the phrase staying relevant, staying, culturally applicable. And that's why I was like, man, there's nothing that's more pivotal and it's transcendent than truth. But it's how it's being wise on how do you deliver it. And it's, don't dilute it, don't water it down, don't try to be, pop culture sensation. Sure. Be yourself, be authentic, but also simultaneously be smart enough to know what vehicles are you using to deliver that. Because sometimes people are so concerned about the vehicle that they dilute the substance of what they're actually communicating. And what I've heard with most people, most young adults that I've been in proximity to, especially 1825s, the things that they appreciate the most by being in proximity to me is that, man, you tell me how it is. And you don't do it in a rude way. You tell me in an honest way. And sometimes it hurts, because, love hurts sometimes. Sure. When you have a really good friend that's willing to tell you the real truth. Hey, man, even something like, hey, you shouldn't be dating that person. Why? Well, to be honest with you, they're not good for you, and you've got some toxic traits yourself. You need to work on some of these things. It's very rare in societies like this that we have those type of conversations, or that depth of accountability with people. But I found that that's what young adults crave. They want truth, they want accountability, they want coaching, and they want it done out of sincerity, authenticity, and let's just be honest, just validity of like what you're saying is substantial. It's true. It can be verified. It's fact checked, and it has proven itself to be true. And if you combine those three things, man, there's no limit to the influence that you can have in people's lives if you do those things.
Yeah. Man, I feel like there could be a whole episode. We'll have to have you back for sure. Cause like that idea of accountability and what that really means. Cause I think there are people that's like, well, I want to hear what you have to say. It's like, but do you really? Because I
Yeah.
think if you really mean that, like we got to make sure this is not going to become a problem later, because what I'm going to tell you, like you said, it's going to be honest.
Yeah.
And you may not like it in the moment, but this is the most genuine, honest thing I can tell you. And so it is interesting because I think you're right. I think there's a lot of people that say they want that honesty, but then I do question sometimes how much people like truly are ready for it, if that makes
Right.
sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like we all need it. But some people like I don't know if they're really ready for what that really means.
Oh, it's funny. I've been married now, like I said, for 18 years. And there was a point in our marriage where my wife would ask me, "Hey, does this look good on me? Do these pants, does this shirt?" And there were times where I was like, I don't think I'm ready for the repercussions of telling this truth. And I don't think she's ready for the repercussions of me telling this truth.
Sure.
So, but now we're in year 18,
Yeah.
and I've got so much more equity, so much more trust, and my opinion of that is more valuable. So I can say things honestly, and there's not repercussion, and there's not a
Sure.
frustration, because she said, like, I genuinely value what you truly like, what you truly value. So tell me if you really like this or not. And then I'm able to say, no, I don't like that. Or those pants look silly on you. Or babe, that outfit makes you gorgeous. Like, I love that. And that comes with equity. That comes with time. It comes with true investment. And
Yeah.
and yeah, sorry, that's a whole nother podcast too. Like the relational equity gives you the ability to say those hard truths. And some people would rather say a hard truth with no relational equity. And the reality is that hard truth will not be received because you don't have the relational equity. That's why, you see some of these, you have people that are tyrants, or you've been in San Francisco and you see someone on a soapbox and they're yelling at people and they're screaming at people, and they think that it's going to have impact when they lack equity to have any sort of significant impact. They're just screaming at people. And I think a lot of people have used that medium to try to impact or influence. Was like the real change, especially with young adults, is equity and validity to what you're saying. So sorry, I feel like I keep going on rabbit trails. I'm trying to keep myself off the rabbit trails. My kids are coming in and out of the house and all this stuff. So
No, it's all good, man. Like I said, that's why we have you on the podcast, because we know you have some great thoughts. And so I don't mind. I do want to be respectful of your time though. And then basically to what you're saying too, that's basically social media these days, right? Like social media has become the dude on the corner of a city block, standing on the soapbox, yelling at people with the megaphone. It's the same thing on social media.
Yeah.
Which is a problem because, and I've always said this on this podcast, like social media makes us so much more connected than we've ever been, but it's also a platform that can drive us further apart than we've ever been. And it's a sad thing. I'm not going to go down the social media thing because that could be a whole different topic. But you did bring up your family and your wife and your kids. Obviously, with your job, you don't have a normal 9-to-5 job. You have a job where your job is literally to invest in people. And it's not like you get to shut your phone off. Like I have a 9-to-5. Once I'm done, I'm done. I don't have to talk to those people until the next day. It's a little bit different. Like people are, reaching out, and I'm sure that becomes a really challenging thing, especially you've been doing it for a minute, but I'm sure early on it was a really challenging thing. And then you get married and you have kids, and then that balance of time and work or your ministry, it's a constant juggling act. And it's like people keep throwing like other items in there, right? So it's like I got 3 things I'm juggling. Now it's like, oh, throw another one in and another one in. So how do you find balance in that when the nature of your job is not to really just shut it off? Like you kind of have to, not be on. I don't know if there's a better way to say that, but like not be on, but like available. You're available a lot more than a normal job would require, but at the same time, you do have your family, which is your main priority. So, that was a long way of saying, how do you find balance in all of that?
Kind of going back even to the beginning of how we started the podcast is, what do I value? And what you value determines priorities. And obviously when I'm done with quote unquote my office hours of what I do, and I come home and I get a phone call, or there's a crisis happening in someone's life, and I'm doing homework with my kids or with my boys, and um, I don't really get to do it that often because my wife is phenomenal and she helps kind of do a lot of that things. But when I get the opportunities, I love to do it, and it's significant for me being able to contribute to the forging of my son's character, and educating them, and being there in those moments. And so I have to make an evaluation decision, like, okay, what degree of crisis is this in this person's life? And in the years I've been doing this, is you breaking up with your girlfriend something that demands my attention right now? No, it doesn't demand my attention right now. What demands my attention right now are my kids. Hey, let's have coffee tomorrow. Let's have lunch tomorrow. I'm not pushing you off. I am establishing that I value you, and I'm establishing a carved out portion of my day tomorrow to exclusively connect with you. And then there's times, hey, my mom just died and no one's here. That's that. And then I sit there and I look at my wife and I look at my kids, and I get an opportunity to explain to them, hey, one of my good friends just lost their mommy, and I'm going to stop doing homework with you, and mommy's going to do it for you, and I want to go care for this person. And in those moments, I'm able to inform them on not mathematics, but on people dynamics. So I've just learned
That's
to
good.
differentiate values. I've learned to differentiate what is a level of demand and intensity of someone that might be wanting my attention, or they're actually needing my attention. How am I able to put it onto the scale of values, and which one? Family or my friend? Family or crisis, or family or a misinterpreted heartbreak in their life that they think is a crisis, but it's not actually a crisis. How do I even those scales? And it's all determined by values, and those values determine my priorities.
No, I love that, man, especially now. 'Cause, I mean, this is really our first conversation that we've had in quite a while, especially since I've become a dad myself. And I love the fact that you're not just, because I mean, you could be like, "Hey, dad's got to go," and you just bounce. It's like,
Yeah.
where'd this dude go? And we just never see him. He's just always running out the door. You could do that, and like you said, place a higher priority on this other thing that comes up, but you use it as an opportunity to not just help someone else, but you're using it as an opportunity to say, hey, like teach and lead your own kids, and say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. And I think there's huge value in it, because I think it shows the importance of what you're doing, but it helps them develop and grow in that area of their life too. You know what I mean? And I think it's a really smart thing, man. I'm gonna store that away from my own
Yeah.
my dad toolbox. I think there's a lot of people that don't do that, and then it's almost like there's this gap between them and their kids, and they're just not sure, like, well, why does he always leave? Why is he always doing this? Why does he not have time? And it's never explained. You might be doing some really great things, but to your kids, it doesn't matter. It's like, he's just
Mm-hmm.
gone. He's not there. He's, not spending time with us. And so that could probably repair or bridge the gap between a lot of parents and their kids, if they were willing to take the time to kind of explain better, what they were doing in those moments.
Right. And that's, like I said, even going back to the beginning, like knowing my why, what do I value, what is truth, and if there's anything that I can pass on. My most important influence that I have in this life is not the 18 to 25-year-olds, it's my kids, it's my family. And it's, if they don't know what their father values, if they don't understand the foundational truths and principles that I've built my life upon, then I've failed. I have failed as a father. I've failed as a leader of my family. I've failed in so many significant ways. If those who are the nearest and dearest to me are missing out on that which is most significant to me, then I am not doing my job responsibly. And my goal has always been, hey boys, I'm not I'm not just leaving. Like, even when I go to the gym, like I go to the gym about an hour every day, and I look at them, hug them. I'm walking out the door, and I go, "Hey boys, why is Dad going to the gym?" He's like, "Because you want to be healthy." Why does Dad want to be healthy, boys? Because you want to have a long life with us. I was like, exactly. I'm not just going to the gym for aesthetics. I'm not going to the gym to boost my ego. I go to the gym because I want to have a long life on this earth and experience life alongside you. It just changes the game. And then they don't resent you going to the gym. They're like, oh, Dad's investing into his physical health so that he can have physical time with us here on earth. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
there you go.
No, it's funny. Blake Kidwell said something. We had him on quite a while ago, but he said something very similar where he's like, I wake up in the morning, I go out and run early in the morning. And it's like, it's a cool thing because that becomes a normal part of life for his son. So he just knows, oh, Dad goes to run because he wants to be healthy, because he wants to be there for me, all those things. But it just becomes a part of his son's life too. And it's like, oh yeah, like staying healthy, staying fit, staying in shape. That's part of our life. That's just what we do. And so it just has so many different points of contact for your kids' lives, which I think is pretty cool,
Yeah.
man. And so yeah, I think that's amazing, man. I got one more question because we are up against the time. So I got one more question for you. This is kind of a
Okay.
big one. But I feel like it's an important one to ask because obviously, like I've said multiple times already, you work with college age students. And and there's so many things that they deal with on a regular basis, but if you had to pick one thing, what is like maybe the biggest challenge that faces a college age student right now today?
Oh man.
Hate to end on that one because that's such a big question. I'm trying to get you out of here,
Yeah.
but
No. I think probably one of the things I've identified that, and I've got three of them specifically that I operate on as with my full time job as being a pastor. But one of them specifically, I think, is having a healthy social group. Like, and especially, I think it molds well into your podcast and what the theme of this podcast is. But the susceptibility and the I'm going to say it, the influence that a social group can have on you, an immediate friend group can have on your life. I think young adults and college students underestimate the potency of a social group and the moments, even the decisions that are made in a moment. Instead of going to the movie, we went to a club, and think of the dynamics of those two experiences, thinking of the possibilities and thinking of the outcomes of those two decisions. Most people underestimate something that simple, but I think having a healthy social group that has the same values, has the same direction in life, has the same purpose in life. And you've heard this cliche saying, Josh, probably 100 billion trillion times. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Show me the people in the closest proximity to you, and I'll show you those who have the greatest influence in your life of who you're going to be and what will define your values and what will be your voting regiment, what will be your perspective of life, your echo chamber. Show me your closest friends. And if you don't have people in your life that, like I said, have the same distinctive values, that are anchored into truth, then you, my friend, are probably going to be someone that's susceptible to every external voice, every external influence, and you'll lack substance and conviction in what you do because you lack a social structure around you that validates, affirms, and holds you accountable to that which is true. So I think having a healthy social dynamic around you is crucial. Taking inventory of your friends, taking inventory of your friends' decisions, taking inventory of what are their hobbies, taking inventory like of their life goals and ambitions. Are they still working the same fast food job for the last 5 years and they're 24 years old and still living in their parents' house? Well, if that's the case, they might lack zeal and purpose. They might lack vision for their life, which then lets me know that you're okay with that in your own life. And so I would say, let's take some inventory and assess immediate social circles and those who have the greatest influence and motivations in my life. And are they people that I want to emulate? Are they people that I want to be synonymous with? Are they people that I think have significant character and have badges of significant success, and they're accomplished and they have substance and they have purpose? And if they don't have any of those things, then you need to probably have some hard conversations with yourself and with those people and just saying, hey, you're not pushing me towards the person I want to be and achieving the dreams I want to achieve. And it's probably better that we stop spending so much time together. But Blake, isn't that hurtful? Don't you feel like that's destructive? Or I'm like, well, let's ask you 20 years from now in the future if that was a good decision or a bad decision. And more often than not, that person that's 20 years in the future will probably say, hey, you made the right decision by severing that friendship because of this, or you made the right decision by making that friendship because of this. So
there we go. You just dropped the mic right there. I love it, man. That was a great way to end this thing.
thanks, Josh. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to chat with me for a little bit. Hopefully in the future we can do this again, not 2 years down the road. Maybe sooner than that if you'd be willing, man. We'd love to do it. That being said, before we get out of here, where can they follow you? Everything you do, social media, websites, all that stuff.
I mean, I just actually restarted my Instagram account because I was actually off social media for 2.5, 3 years myself. And so it's at Blake Vandemark on social media. And the ministry that I oversee at Bayside is Bayside 18.25 on Instagram. And yeah, you can see everything that we do there. And that's it. Blake Vandemark and Bayside 1825. That's us.
Perfect. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time, and good luck with everything coming up for you. And good luck with the 4 kids and all the craziness that comes with that, man.
Thank you. I'm assuming you heard our front doorbell going off and on the last 5 minutes of this conversation. It said front door open, front door open.
Really? I didn't hear any of it.
Shutting. Well, that's good because I was about to be like, guys, shut the front door. Shut the door.
Hey, you know what, man? On this podcast, we've had cats walk across the screen. We have dogs in the background barking. We've had kids start fighting. It doesn't even matter at this point.
That's great.
I can hear my own kids sometimes in the background when they're not already asleep. So we're accepting here. It's all good. And like I said, I didn't even hear it. So whatever you did, well done.
Perfect. Love it.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Josh. Well, hey, it was great chatting with you, and we'll talk to you later.
Appreciate you. Bye.
All right, man. Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable podcast.